As we saw in the case of Colin Reeves, petty rivalries can escalate to deadly levels. But things become even more erratic and bizarre when young people are causing the feud. When you mix tit for tat with remarkable idiocy, it becomes twit for twat, frankly. In the town of Walkden in the Manchester area, two young men are embroiled in an ever-escalating rivalry. The fact that one is 16 and the other is in his mid-20s does rather make you think that the older participant should probably have known better. What began as a series of smashed windows and insults culminates in a fatal house fire as a result of this pathetic game of one-upmanship, where the two idiots escalate the incidents to try to prove something. I don't know what. We're going to the northwest of the UK and to 2017 to look at the foolishness that led to multiple deaths, as we look at the case of Michelle Pearson and her family. This is Murder of Crows. Walkden is a town near the city of Salford in the Greater Manchester area. It has around 37,000 residents and it has two parks, Blackleach Country Park and Parfold Park. So while it has a history of being an industrial area, it has plenty of open space for children. And this is particularly useful for someone like Michelle Pearson. She lived in the town as a single mum to 6 children. Being a parent is a difficult job at the best of times. But being a mother of 6 adds an extra layer of work and complexity, meaning the ability to multitask is a job requirement rather than just a handy skill. With her two oldest children, Kyle and Demi, in their mid-teenage years, the moodiness and hormones of puberty complicate an already difficult parenting environment. Obviously, with 6 children, it's tough to keep an eye on all the kids all the time, especially as your older children are becoming more independent and starting to spread their wings and spending more time away from home. Somewhere within this quagmire of hormones and the need to be seen as manly and grown up, it was in 2017 that Kyle Pearson, 16 at that time, began a spat with Zach Bolland, who was in his mid-20s at this time. Quite why this older guy took issue with the teenage Pearson is not known, or at least I couldn't find out. But what started as verbal sparring and insults would soon bubble over into property damage and vindictiveness. The escalation began to become dangerous and potentially life-threatening in November of 2017, where on the 25th of that month, Zach Boland's Peugeot is set on fire, and he claims that his home on Blackleach Drive in Walkden was also targeted in an arson attack, but he quickly extinguished the flames that entered his home before they could take hold and become more serious. He immediately blamed Kyle Pearson for the attack and texted Kyle's mum, Michelle Pearson, demanding £500 for the damage. On November the 26th, not content with already having demanded money in compensation, Zach Boland went to the Pearson home at 8 Jackson Street at around 9 AM and used a hammer to smash the front windows and smash the glass in the front door. Michelle Pearson obviously called the police to report the incident. In response, later on the 26th, Kyle Pearson, along with his brother Lewis and his friends Bobby Harris and Luke Fleming, and armed with clubs and hammers, the group smashed windows at Boland's mother's home. And this boils over with the Pearson group clashing with Boland, his brothers, and Boland's friend stroke girlfriend Courtney Brierley in the street. In the evening, police attend the Pearson home after Boland sent a text to Kyle Pearson threatening to firebomb the home. Oh, it's all fun and games, eh? 2 days later, on November the 28th, the fire service attend the Pearson home at 8 Jackson Street to fit a letterbox cover that would prevent accelerants being poured inside the home. On December the 1st, Zach Boland is thrilled that the police were taking no further action against him regarding the incident where Michelle's windows were broken. But not content with letting things rest there, Boland, along with his friend stroke girlfriend Courtney Brierley, go to 8 Jackson Street to taunt the family over being NFA'd, with NFA being no further action. And he made further threats and was generally smug and twatty. Michelle Pearson called the police to make a report and asked for a restraining order to keep Zach Boland away from her home. Unfortunately, this will prove to be too late given the rapid escalation that was happening at that time. And things continue to simmer over the next week. On December the 9th in the early morning, Michelle Pearson's wheelie bin was set alight and the word grass was spray painted on her house, presumably by Zach Boland. This is reported to the police, with Boland being named as the likely culprit. Jesus Christ, in his mid-20s, behaving like a child. Anywho, in the evening of December the 10th, Zach Boland and Courtney Brierley are joined by fellow ne'er-do-well David Worrell, and they make the brilliant decision to drink to excess. The trio buy 2 cases of Budweiser from a local shop. Just after midnight, Zach Bolland and David Worrell, with a couple of hangers-on, go to the Pearson home and bang on the door and shout threats before they return to Bolland's home, presumably thinking it was a job well done. Police attend and stay at the Pearson home for 90 minutes, while Michelle Pearson makes a statement and asks that Zach Bolland be arrested. At 3:30 AM, as we roll further on into the 11th of December, the unsavoury trio decide that more alcohol is in order because, you know, why not? So they buy a case of Stella and a bottle of wine from a petrol station, as you do. They then return to Bolland's home to continue drinking. An hour later, Zach Bolland and David Worrell go to buy 1.23 litres of unleaded petrol, which was dispensed into a green petrol can, and this costs them £1.50. Then, less than half an hour later, Bolland and Worrell lift a fence panel at the rear of 8 Jackson Street and attack the home with 2 petrol bombs, the flares from which are caught on nearby CCTV. The fire crews arrive within 10 minutes, but by then the house is well ablaze. They attempt to rescue the occupants of the home. 8-year-old Brandon Pearson and 7-year-old Lacey Pearson are rushed to the hospital but are declared dead in the hospital. Demi Pearson, aged 15, is declared dead at the scene. But Michelle Pearson and 3-year-old Leah are rushed to the hospital clinging to life. Ironically, Kyle Pearson, the preferred target of the arseholes, escaped the house with his friend Bobby Harris, who was staying at the home for the night. Heartbreakingly, Kyle saw the light from his sister Demi's mobile phone at the window before she coughed in the thick smoke, then appeared to fall away from the window. Harrowing. Over the next day and a half, Zach Bolland, David Worrell and Courtney Brierley were rounded up and arrested. Tragically, after 2 days of fighting for her life, at 2:30 PM on the 13th of December 2017, Leah Pearson's life support was turned off, making her the 4th confirmed victim of the fire at 8 Jackson Street. Michelle Pearson had 75% burns and was placed into an induced coma when she had arrived in hospital to allow her the best chance of recovery. She remained in a coma for 4 months before she regained consciousness in April of 2018 and tried to come to terms with the loss of 4 of her children in a senseless attack. She was still gravely ill and dealing with severe physical injuries on top of the mental trauma that she awoke to. She released a video on the 1st anniversary of the attack, thanking firefighters for their efforts and paying tribute to her 4 angels.
First of all, I'd like to thank all the firefighters for what they have done. Second, I would like to thank the community for all their generous donations. At last, I would like to thank everybody for coming tonight.
As the case approached trial, Michelle continued her efforts to recover. In May of 2018, Bolland, Worrell and Brierley were tried for the attack that left 4 children dead. The trial heard that at about 5 AM on the 11th of December 2017, the men removed a fence panel from the garden of the mid-terrace house in Walkden, smashed a kitchen window and threw in 2 lit petrol bombs. The fire spread to block the only exit from the first floor to the ground floor as the Pearson family slept upstairs. Demi Pearson, 15, her brother Brandon, 8, and sister Lacey, 7, who were sleeping in a front bedroom, died in the blaze. Their youngest sister, Leah, 3 years old, died in hospital 2 days later. Kyle Pearson, 17 by now, and a friend escaped, but Michelle Pearson, 36, was seriously injured. Zach Bolland, 23, and his friend David Worrell, 25, were each convicted of 4 counts of murder at Manchester Crown Court. Each were handed 4 life sentences, with Bolland told he would serve a minimum term of 40 years, and Worrell serving a minimum of 37 years. Bolland's girlfriend, Courtney Brierley, 20 years old, was accused of encouraging and assisting the 2 men with their crimes. She was found guilty of 4 counts of manslaughter and was given a 21-year sentence. In another layer of tragedy, 20 months after the horrific attack, Michelle Pearson died at the age of 37 on the 25th of August 2019. The 2 main attackers, Zach Bolland and David Worrell, were returned to court for trial for the murder of Michelle Pearson.
Just after 2:30 this afternoon, when the jury returned unanimous guilty verdicts on both defendants for the murder of Michelle Pearson. Now, Mrs. Pearson died 20 months after that devastating fire in Jackson Street in Walkden in December 2017. It was a fire that killed 4 of her children: Demi, aged 15, Brandon, who was 8, 7-year-old Lacey, and Leah, who was just 3 years old. Another child, Kyle, who was 16 at the time, escaped through a window. Well, Michelle Pearson herself suffered almost 70% burns in the fire. Her injuries were described as horrific, yet from her hospital bed she released an incredibly touching video message showing her appreciation for those who have helped her family. It was released ahead of a vigil organised by the Walkden community to mark 12 months since the fire.
I'd like to thank all the firefighters for what they have done. Second, I would like to thank the community for all their generous donations. At last, I would like to thank everybody for coming tonight.
Well, the court heard of an ongoing feud where Bolland and Worrell had continually threatened the Pearson family following a row with their eldest son Kyle over damage to Bolland's car. In the weeks before the fire, Bolland had sent messages to the family demanding £500. He'd set fire to a wheelie bin and he had told Mrs. Pearson, "I am going to do your house." Well, hours after that threat, Bolland and Worrell were caught on a neighbour's CCTV camera back at the house. They removed a fence panel at the back, smashed a kitchen window and threw 2 petrol bombs inside. Flames engulfed the downstairs, trapping the Pearson family upstairs. Well, 3 of the children died in the house. 3-year-old Leah died 2 days later in hospital, and Mrs. Pearson was told of their deaths while she was in hospital. Well, both Bolland and Worrell are serving 4 life sentences for the murders of the children. They will be sentenced for their mother's murder next month. Rachel Townsend, ITV News, Manchester Crown
Zach
Court.
Bolland and David Worrell were jailed for 40 years and 37 years respectively, following a trial at Manchester Crown Court. The pair were already serving life sentences with a minimum of 40 years for Bolland and 37 years for Worrell for the murders of 4 of Michelle's children following a trial in 2018. While the new sentences will run concurrently, boo! Mrs. Justice McGowan ruled Bolland and Worrell's latest sentences would run from the day of sentencing, not from 2018, and they will each serve about 3 extra years in jail. Hooray! This was a horrific tragedy that just escalated from young people trying to be alphas and just showing themselves to be cockwombles. 5 people, including 4 children, died because they were caught in the middle of a childish game that became very, very real. This video is of course dedicated to Michelle and her 4 angels who, given the location of the fire, never stood a chance. If there is an afterlife, I hope they have been reunited and are surrounded by love and peace. Thank you for watching another episode of Murder of Crows. Samson, conspicuous by his absence, is off somewhere round and about. Better things to do, clearly. But I'm Steve, and I will see you when I see you.
Say